Hello, and welcome back to the Joyfully Made podcast. If you are new here, my name is Shelley, and I am all about where real life meets real faith. And we are continuing on today in a series that we started last time called Her Story, Her Healing. I have found in the past couple of years that there is so much value in our stories and to be gained from hearing other people's stories and their journeys and how they heal and they find God. And yes, it's real, and yes, it's hard, and yes, it's raw, but it doesn't matter what tunnel we are in, there is always light at the end. We always have that promise that God is going to be with us through every valley. And today's guest, her name is Veronica. I met her actually through an online ministry, and then I went to an event that she hosted in the fall, and it was, I think, maybe about 5 or 6 women sharing their stories of trauma and hurt and frustration, and then bringing it to healing and the how and the why and everything in between. And Veronica actually shared her story last, and her story is one of infertility, miscarriage, the frustration, the anger, the shame, the wanting to give up, the body hatred when your body just doesn't seem to do what it was created to do as a female. And it's a beautiful story, and she is so excited to be here and share her journey. Definitely grab some tissues, but the end of it is full of hope, because that is who Jesus is. He promises to walk with us through everything. And like I said, I'm so glad you are here. I'm excited to share this story with you guys. So let's get started. Welcome back. As I said, we have Veronica here with us today. And without further ado, Veronica, thank you so much for being here.
Hi, great to be here. Thank you for having me.
I gave them just a little bit of overview of how we met through an online ministry, and then the amazing event that you held in October. But I really haven't told them anything just about like who you are, your stage in life. So if you could just give us a little background, that would be amazing.
Yeah, of course. So as Shelley said, I'm Veronica. I am a a follower of Jesus, a mother of one wonderful son, a wife for the last 11 years almost. Don't tell my husband, I had to think about that. But yeah, and like I grew up, I was raised on a dairy farm in Ontario, and I loved that life. There was so much freedom in it, and I think it kind of prepared me to be the woman that I am. Because with that freedom, I actually had a lot of I'd say like a lot of hard times in my household, and I have 3 other siblings, and yeah, it was just a very interesting time. So I moved to Alberta when I was 20 years old and knew nothing. I had a very naive outlook in the world. I did not have a faith. I did not know God during any of this time, and yeah, I met my husband when I was pretty young, and well, I guess 23. I guess that's pretty young. Um, yeah, and we've lived kind of all over, like Calgary, Cochrane, now Airdrie, for almost the last 4 years now. So yeah, that's just a brief overview.
Nice. Okay, what area of Ontario?
Outside of Ottawa, so very French and very much farm country.
Oh, okay. My brother lives in the Madawaska Valley. That's why I'm
Okay.
asking. So I'm somewhat familiar with the country life. I love
Yeah.
going and eating the fresh eggs every morning. That's like my favorite thing is the chickens and the fresh honey because they have bees. Anyway. Yeah. So, okay. Well, I kind of already briefed everybody that we're talking about the journey of your journey of infertility and the frustration with wanting to have children and everything that came with it and the healing and the hope that you have found at the end. So I'm going to just open the floor. Go ahead and share wherever you want to start with that.
Yeah, um, absolutely. It's been a very interesting storyline for me in my life, because I always wanted to be a mom. It was other than milking cows and and like working in childcare and raising children, like that was all I knew. And I wanted to have my own children to raise. And when I had our son Declan, he's amazing. Um, I so loved being a mother, but I always felt like something was missing. And and I don't know if it was because my husband was away and I was at home uh, during mat leave, but I, yeah, I just felt like there was something I needed more. And I just assumed that the answer was more children to fill the void and to just make me feel purposeful and yeah, like just have an abundance of children. That's always what I envisioned. And it took us over a year to get pregnant again. I had a miscarriage before Declan, but like, I shouldn't say but, it was a miscarriage um, at 6 weeks. And so pretty early on in the pregnancy. And then I got pregnant with Declan pretty quickly after. But after we started trying, Declan was a year and a half. So it took us over a year and to get pregnant again. And there was no reason why I wasn't getting pregnant. Everything seemed fine, health wise and internally. From what I was told by doctors, all my blood work was good, everything was good. They didn't know. And they wanted to, I don't know, like kind of start the process of like being put on hormones and everything. And I just wanted to hold off. I wasn't ready to go down that road. I understand like how it can affect your body, and I was very conscious of that kind of thing. And yeah, and then finally we became pregnant after we had been trying for a year, and I was so excited. Thought it was like going to fix everything in my life because the whole year leading up to that pregnancy, I was like, I was just a dumpster fire basket case of a woman. My poor husband was just my husband was just so amazing that whole time because when you're trying to get pregnant and when you know that you can, because you've done it before, you well, for me, I would start every month, like on my new cycle, like, okay, I'm going to be so good and so diligent. I'm going to track everything. And this month I'll get pregnant. And then, I would get really anxious the end of the month as my date for my period was looming and then my period would start and I would be absolutely gutted. And it was, and like, I was just so miserable. And I was like this up and down roller coaster every single month until I got pregnant again. And my husband, he was just so steadfast through it all. And I just really, I'm so grateful for him just being the pillar that he is. And yeah, so when I got pregnant, I was like, man, this is amazing. It's everything. Like it finally happened. There's nothing wrong with me. Um, because the whole time I thought something was wrong with me or I was being punished in some way. And again, I still didn't know God through all of this. But the pregnancy, I started bleeding at 8 weeks. And because I had had a miscarriage before, I immediately assumed that's what was happening. And I kept trying to tell myself it was going to be okay. And I just stopped moving. I stopped doing things because I was like, if I'm just careful with my body, then it'll be okay and everything will be fine. I went for a 12-week ultrasound and was told that I was too early because it was the ultrasound where they take measurements. And I just wanted another ultrasound to see the baby. Like I didn't really care about anything. But they told me I was a week early, so I'd have to go back the next week. And so I went back the next week. And it was at that appointment they told me that the baby wasn't viable, that all the measurements were off, and I should terminate. And they could help me through that process. And before I terminate, I should do all these tests that I don't know, I guess that determine what maybe went wrong or what happened with the baby. And I don't know why I was like this. I don't know if it was because I waited like so long to get pregnant again. I just felt that like no was the answer. Like no, I don't want to terminate. Doctors are wrong all the time. Although I did see the ultrasound and I knew that things were not lining up. Um, but it wasn't that I was in denial because I knew things were like, you know your body. So I knew things were a little bit off, but I couldn't be the one that, that finished things. And so I just kind of held on in faith, and I had another ultrasound, like just um, an ultrasound where they could hear the heartbeat, and we still heard the heartbeat 2 weeks later, still going strong. And I was like, see, everything's fine.
Can
Uh,
I ask you something quick?
yeah.
So when they said it wasn't viable, what
Mhm.
does that mean?
From what I remember, they were just saying that the baby would not survive. So they
So
wanted,
there was still life in it.
yes,
Well, no wonder you didn't want to terminate it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, that's okay.
Go on. So
Yeah, that's
you were hearing the heartbeat still.
still hearing the heartbeat.
Okay.
So I assumed everything was fine. And then I went in for another ultrasound to check things out at 16 weeks. And it was at that ultrasound that we learned that the baby had died. And they didn't know when it had happened. They figured because there was no longer any fluid, amniotic fluid in my stomach, that it had been at least a week. And again, I knew, like, my stomach stopped growing, things were off, like I just knew things were off. And but I remember being told, and like it's still devastating to be told that your baby has died, and and like, even though you know things aren't the way they should be, you still know, like, you still believe and still hope for the best outcome possible.
You
And
hope for a miracle.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
and that just didn't happen. That wasn't my story. And so they gave me all the options on how to proceed, and all of them actually led to a DNC. In the end, they could give you drugs to induce labor to help you deliver this baby. And but all of them, I was like, well, I may as well just have the surgery so that it's done, and it's over, and I just move on. And I think mentally I kind of shut down a little bit. I immediately went from like having all this hope to um like not really having, like, just being so disgusted with my body that I just shut down. And I was like, well, I may as well have the surgery, because that's like the best way that I can punish my body for what happened. Blaming myself, even though it wasn't, like, I didn't do anything wrong. Um, but that's just what I internally deeply believed. And
So
and so I
instead of
went,
going numb slash anger
yeah,
slash moving into like self-loathing, almost like, what is wrong with you? Like, oh my goodness.
yeah, that's
I can't,
exactly,
I can't imagine.
yeah. And I had a history of, like, I had a history of depression and anxiety. And
Mm.
so that territory wasn't unfamiliar, but it seemed like a heightened level for me of this just hatred for my body. And I ended up going in for the surgery the next day to have the DNC, and I woke up in immense pain. I could barely stand up and walk. And I ended up booking an appointment with my acupuncturist. I told her what happened immediately. And I booked an appointment because I basically told her that I needed to get my hormones back on track so that I can basically pretend like the last 4 months didn't happen, and I move on and I just try and get pregnant again. That's where my brain was. And what ended up happening was that acupuncture appointment actually spurred on um, labor. And I didn't know this at the time, but the next day I ended up being in severe pain. I went to urgent care and found out that, well, I went in saying, like, I had a DNC, and they're like, are you sure you had a DNC? Like, the amount of times I was actually questioned about that, I was like, yeah, I know what I went in for. And they they came out and they're like, well, we don't see anything wrong. So here's some antibiotics, and we'll give you some Percocet for the pain. And send you on your way. And I was like, okay, great. And I went home, and at 3 o'clock in the morning, I sat up straight and I was like, something is wrong, because I just took some pills at midnight so that I would get a night's sleep. And I woke up and I was in so much pain. And I went to the washroom, and I'm sorry if this is too much information, but I went to the washroom and there was like tissue hanging out of me. And I remember like wiping and like trying to pull it, and it was like, it was still attached. And it was like, and I couldn't stand up straight. And I didn't know what was happening. I had no idea. And so I woke up my husband and I was like, you need to call an ambulance, because our son was still sleeping. I'm like, you need to stay here with him. I got to go to the hospital. Like, I don't know what's going on. And so um, I was in labor, and I was in so much pain from the labor that they had to, dose me with a bunch of drugs on the way to the hospital. And I finally calmed down. And I got there and I waited around for a while, and I had a couple of people come, like the regular doctor, and then the doctor went and got the gynecologist, I believe. And both of them were like, are you sure you had a DNC? And I'm like, yes, I am sure I had a DNC. And the third doctor who came in, she was like, the reason I'm asking is because, like, she called it a fetus, but I call it a baby. She's like, your baby is still in there. They didn't remove it during the surgery, which is why my body was going into labor to get everything out. And you sign waivers, knowing that this is possible, but then of course thinking like that's just precaution. That's never going to happen, but it happened. So I was going through labor to deliver this baby, and so they induced me to put me back into labor to deliver everything naturally, and it kind of worked.
You did it alone? Your
I was
husband was at
alone.
home in
My
bed.
husband was at home. I was adamant that no one knew what was going on. And we actually, because this was all a week before Christmas too. And we had tickets for our son to go on like the Polar Express. So I was very insistent to my husband, like, take him, go anyway. I don't want him to miss out. You can't do anything for me here, so you may as well go. And I spent the entire time, I did have an aunt come out and visit for a couple of hours, but I think like I was in so much pain. I think she was like totally freaked out. But I spent most of the time by myself, and it gave me a lot of time to think and to just be alone, feel sorry for myself. But mostly I was just angry, and I wanted the whole process to be over. And so I ended up delivering the baby. And they asked me if I wanted to see it, and I said no. I don't need
Was
that.
it still was it in baby form? Do you know? Or was it,
I don't know.
you don't know?
All I
Okay.
remember was they asked me if I wanted to see, because sometimes that can give people closure,
Right.
and I was already so removed that I had no desire and no interest. And then I still ended up having to go for a DNC in the night anyway, because I still had tissue in my stomach that they needed to remove. So I still had that second surgery. And then, so Monday is when I learned the baby died. And then Saturday night, I had the second surgery, and I was allowed to leave Sunday morning. And I got up and I walked out of the hospital like nothing happened. And it was, it was like the weirdest experience of looking back at that whole week of like, I am here. I just had this major surgery and I'm walking out by myself. My husband came to pick me up with my son. I walked out the front doors and I picked up my son and walked to the vehicle, and I was like, it was like nothing happened. Like my body felt totally fine, but my state of being was so destroyed.
Your heart was broken.
Yeah, yeah. And
You and I are similar creatures and I'm sure others can resonate when we go through things. We're literally like, dude, suck it up, pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and start all over again. And I've realized that that does not serve us to do that. So listening to your story, sometimes I'm like, I so would have been the exact same way. Like, go through trauma, that's fine. We're gonna fix this. We're gonna whatever, do what we need to do to fix the problem. Wow. Okay. Sorry to interrupt. I just oh yeah, it's a story. Okay.
yeah.
Go on.
yeah, so after that, I went back to work for a couple of days because I was fine, and you don't get medical leave for going through this kind of experience. So like, and I only had to work like I think 1 or 2 days, and the people I was working for offered, they even told me like you don't have to come in, and I was the one who was like, no, it's fine, like, because again I was pretending like this didn't happen, this was not that big of a deal, like I will pick myself up and move on, and who cares. And even the way that I told my family members and friends that I, at the time that I had my life, I basically put them all in this mass thread, and I told them the story very like outside of my, in an outside of myself way, and told them what happened and left it at that. And I didn't even like word it in a way where I asked, like, I made room for them to ask me questions or feel sorry for me. It was like, I'm just telling you this. This is what happened, just so you know. Um, and basically close the door.
Right.
And because that's the way I handled it, I actually didn't really have people ask me if I was okay.
And
Or,
was that was probably a form of self-protection, I'm sure, because
oh,
who
it's
wants to relive the emotions that you already denied over and over, and you're already not grieving the situation because you're just gonna take the bull by the horns.
yeah,
Oh, okay, I get it.
yeah. So, a few, I would say like 3 weeks later, maybe 2 or 3 weeks after Christmas, I decided that I needed to like start working out again. But I did it in a way, like there was this workout that I was following, and a challenge was starting because it was a new year, and I decided that I just needed to be a part of this challenge. And it was totally from the way of I'm punishing my body for doing for not doing what it's supposed to be doing. Like it was not coming from a place of like I want to heal and I want to take care of myself and I want to get stronger and healthier so that I can try this again. It was no, like your body sucks. Now you have this excess weight. You're ugly. You're too fat. You're um like you just everything about you just sucks. And like so no wonder this happened to you because you just don't even take care of yourself. And like I just mentally berated myself forever. And that stayed with me for years.
Did you
Um
have body images in your youth? Body
like
image issues in
yeah,
your youth? Yeah.
yeah. So it's very easy to default into. And like I've always struggled with my perception of myself. Even to this day, I still struggle when I look in the mirror and I see my body, and I'm like, and in my mind I'm like, this is not my body, or this is not what it should look like, or this is not what it should be. And I don't have a lot of um, love and acceptance for it. It's really hard.
It is
It's
hard.
gotten better. It's gotten better for sure, especially recently. But become very. It has been very difficult to love all of myself all of the time, because I just don't see my body as this beautiful thing that provides life. Like I just, yeah, that's just not been my story.
I think many women struggle with like the whole body image anyways. Well, we know we do.
Yeah.
I was anorexic and bulimic in high school. And then when I got out of that, it was like, well, I'm not putting the weight back on. So then same kind of thing. Like you're gonna work out like crazy. And then I had my babies and I was like, that weight's not staying on. I'm not gonna be one of those people who say I still have my baby weight. And
Mhm.
sure, one could say, I didn't keep the weight on, but it was never from a good, like healthy state of mind. At the end of the day, I would calculate what I ate, and I wouldn't do life until I worked out. And then I'd be mad at the kids because I didn't have time. Like it's just, I completely understand all the other stuff aside, even just accepting our body and then layering on it that why can you not do what you were supposed to be created to do is a whole new level of heart beliefs and anger and frustration and disappointment. And yeah,
Yeah.
oh, definitely. Okay. So you were at the gym, you were going to do this program and kick your own butt.
Yes, I was so determined to just beat myself up over this whole thing, and that didn't really work. Like it didn't. Like I every time I went to the gym, it was with this idea of like I need to beat myself up, and so the feeling like never went away, like that I was ever good enough or fit enough or healthy enough or anything like that. That it never went away because I didn't go in with that mentality of trying to heal myself. So I never healed, and and so that was like the beginning of this battle with myself to a heightened degree because I had always like we just talked about, like I had always had these issues with my body, with food, with my perception of what I look like and what that means to me and to other people. But it was just heightened because now there was this level of shame that followed me everywhere. That my body is what it is, and now I'm a mother of only one child. And then I would I would correct myself and be like, well, at least I have one. And like trying to minimize and diminish my own heartache and
Mm.
struggle by saying, well, at least I know there's a lot of women who can't even conceive one. At least I have
But
one.
you know what, though? I think sometimes that's such hurtful language when we feel like we always need to find the rainbow. Or, well, like you said, the words at least. Well, that's not always the right answer. The
Yeah.
right answer or the right whatever is this hurts because I wanted more. And it is okay to be disappointed and it is okay to be frustrated.
Mhm.
And you didn't know God at this point, right? So
No.
you're not even questioning God.
Yeah.
You're angry at yourself.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, I understand that because that language that at least this and look for the whatever,
Hmm.
it's not helpful either. It doesn't help us grieve. It doesn't help us sit in the emotion. It doesn't help us find healings. It's kind of like a deal with it, Shell. Like get over it, Veronica. You have one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, like a forced gratitude for what you have. And it's not that I wasn't grateful. Like
exactly.
I loved my child. I was immensely happy being his mother. Um, but when I had envisioned like a bigger family, and I think part of it for me was envisioning a big family because I grew up with three siblings, and so that was all I really knew. Um, but I wanted to do it again to almost like that's what I thought it was supposed to be for me to have multiple children so that I could change like my own relationship with my other siblings. It was such a weird
Hmm.
place to be. My older sister, she has three kids, and my younger brother has four kids. And it was actually a few months um after I'd had the miscarriage, I guess is what it's called, and that my brother texted me and he's like, hey, just letting you know, like, my wife is pregnant again. And I was like, with their third. And and I was so crushed because I knew them. They were young, they were incredibly irresponsible, and like they seemingly didn't care about the responsibility of parenting, at least to me, like my perception of it, of course. And I'm not saying that was true for them at all. That was just the way that I was processing and and how I was seeing life at that time was like, why why did these people, like my brother and sister-in-law, why do they get to have multiple children and they just like they don't even seem to care about what they're doing or the way that they're living. And here's my husband and I who like are just giving everything and like just like this is all we care about. Me. This is all I care about. Um and I know I'm a good mother, so why can't I have more children? And I was just like this horrible wrestling place of, well, them, like why not me? Like why can't I have those same things? Why can't it be easy for me too? Like what is so wrong with me that I can't have what they have?
I
And
understand that though. Like,
yeah,
and I think lots of people do because, like, I am one of three. I'm the only blind one. I'm the
yeah,
only one with low vision. And, I look at their circumstances and I'm thinking, okay, God, like, you chose, you say that you made us in your image, and truly all these promises that we're supposed to live by and understand. And yet I look over and I'm like, must be nice to be the sibling that can do that. Like, and it is a wrestle. Like, it is a
Yeah.
wrestle, and you still wrestle with it. I don't know that that ever entirely goes away. And it doesn't mean we're not at peace with ourselves. Maybe you weren't at that moment, but like you can find peace in the moment. And it's not like you wake up every day bitter because your sibling has kids, but
Yeah.
it's there. It's just part of our part of our life, part of our struggle that we get to walk through with God.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. Because I've shared this with many people, and it resonates with them as well. And maybe not about fertility, like you were saying about
Mhm.
being blind. Like it's just, yeah, it's just a gift we are given in the end. Is now where I'm at in life. Jumping way ahead, but yeah, that time was just really, really difficult. I would say like one of the silver linings is like I did actually make this incredible friend, built this relationship with a woman who I believe like God put her in my life on purpose and for a reason. And while I was going through that whole pregnancy, like she was somebody I could lean on a little bit, even though I didn't really know her a ton. And the day that I miscarried or found out that our baby had died, I saw her that evening and she told me that, she just looked at me and she's like, I don't know if you're going to believe this, but like a year ago, we went through a very similar experience. And it was very shocking to me because I had never heard anybody talk about these kinds of experiences before. And then to have this new woman in my life who already meant a lot to me, and then say, like, she went through a similar experience, I was starting to feel like that's too coincidental for it to just be a coincidence. And it kind of like, that's what, like, I think that was the beginning stages of me even being open to considering what what a faith could look like. And I was still very, very closed. That was not I was not really interested in pursuing that kind of relationship or even exploring it. I just had a very negative perception of God and religion and all that kind of stuff. And um, but this woman did actually, she had a connection to a counselor who had gone through also a similar experience. So she was very uniquely equipped to help me navigate this whole situation.
That's
And
beautiful.
and she is also a Christian, but she didn't like bring a lot of her faith into the conversation. She just gave me a lot of room to process and grieve, and gave me like perspective and permission to just
Mhm.
handle it the way that I needed to handle it. And I found different outlets um, of like of healing, but they were like, it would only take me so far. It was never all the way healing. It was like, okay, well, I'm here, and this is going to take me to here, and that's just enough for me right now, and I can move on with my life being right here. And then something else would come up. Um, like I had learned that a lot of my process over the years has been this idea of like wanting to tightly control everything in my life, and then this experience like it just pushed it over the edge. And I think Declan was, I don't know, like 4 years old, and I finally went into like his baby clothes. He was 4 or 5, and I went into all of the clothes that I had stored up in the baby stuff, and I went through all these buckets. I had so many things for that long that I just held on to, and I went through this bucket and allowed myself to really grieve that there was a possibility that I may never get pregnant again, because I still hadn't up to that point, and I was still so angry and bitter and hurting. But I separated these clothes. I'm like, I'm going to keep these ones for sure, but these ones I can donate, and these toys I can donate. I don't need them anymore. And that for me was like a loosening of my hands to let go of some of the control that I didn't actually have in my life. Like you don't have control over a
Mm-hmm.
lot of things in your life. You just think that you do, or you want to control things. Um, and I just remember that moment of being like, okay, like maybe this is it. And I didn't want that. I didn't want that for me. I so much wanted to have more children, but I just had to come to grips of like, I may never get pregnant again. And that has been a really hard part of my journey because it's still so much of what I wanted my story to be and what I wanted my life to be is to have multiple children. Um, but it's just not the one that God gave me. And yeah, and it's, it's just is what it is. Um, yeah. So over the years, I basically went back and forth. I came to know God, I guess, once I started seeing this counselor. I ended up getting into this arena where I was going to hear John Maxwell speak, and I was very excited. I was like, he's gonna be the pastor. He's gonna pastor the service, and I don't really care about that. But if he's gonna teach something that I can learn and take for myself, then I totally don't want to miss it. And I remember being in this arena, and he did like an altar call, and all these people walked up to the front, and like there was so much emotion, and so like it like there was a lot of reverence, and I had no idea what was happening because I didn't grow up in a church. I didn't grow up like anything, and I stood there trying not to cry because I was like, people can't see me cry because then I'm admitting that I feel something here, and I don't want anybody to know I feel something, because that would be terrible. Um, but I stood there and I'm like, something is going on. Like, and I just remember thinking, is this is this what it looks like to follow God and to have a relationship with him? And it was something that just switched in my head that made it all seem so different. That's not to say I became like I was not very open at the beginning, but I did start going to church and I did start reading the Bible and I did start to learn. I didn't understand anything, and I had so many walls the entire time because I wouldn't let anybody in. Like I was so used to just protecting myself from all of the hurts and the anger and the self hatred that I just wouldn't let anybody in, and as a result, I wouldn't let God into my heart either. So they were like kind of those journeys like just coincide each other because of like it was all the timing, and
Mm-hmm.
and then I started to look back at this very unique set of experiences, and I can see it now. I feel it's very clear. Like it's not that God wanted this horrible thing to happen to me, but he can redeem anything. And I believe like I had to, like for me personally, I had to go through that experience to be open enough to see things for what they were, and open enough to let God in just enough that he could do work in my life. Not everybody needs like a horrible experience in their lives for that to happen, but I did. I know that God would not have reached me in any other way other than like me being in this devastated rock bottom part of my life. And it was
Do
just so
you
necessary.
find, sorry,
That's okay.
um, again, our brains are so much the same. I find that like just listening to your story, people like us, I'm going to say us, our personality,
Mhm.
we kind of lean on ourselves, and we're our strong person, but we're also our critic. We're our we're like our person, and it's so hard for us to lean on anyone else, and it becomes like our coping mechanism. It becomes like our safe space. And yeah, for us that are, I think, personality too, we are just generally perhaps stronger people, even the way we process things. But it seems to take a very large, like, fall, smackdown, whatever we want to call
Yeah.
it, for us to realize, like, wow, I really hate leaning on me. Like, that's, I've said it time and time again. I'm so tired of being in my own corner. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, God's there ready to be in our corner and walk through everything, but we're trying to do all the pieces and all the parts. And everything I resonate so much with that mentality. And um, I heard something the other day in a sermon, and it was hold tight to the promise, but loosely to the plan. And
Mhm.
that just like hits me all the time. Like, hold loosely to my plans and hold tightly to the promises that God has. And it seems like He started to slowly show show you those in the little bits and pieces through your open doors, your open windows. That's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I like it's sometimes I feel so bad for saying that, like how grateful I am for that whole experience, even though I still struggle with my body and this, like
Mhm.
infertility for no reason. Um, or seemingly for no reason. But
Mhm.
I still like I just like God is just so good in my life. Like I I've wrestled so much, and I think the wrestling is what actually helped me gain so much clarity. Is because I didn't just take anything at face value. It was like, well, why? And I didn't just stop at why. It was like, but why again? And why again? Like I just wouldn't stop. And I think because I was just relentless in my trying to figure it out. Like I tried to figure so much out on my own to get pregnant. Like the way that I beat myself up, right, it wasn't just the gym. It was the foods that I ate. It was the controlling of everything I put into my body. It was going to acupuncture to, work on my hormones and develop everything. It was like, the vitamins that I would take or not take, because if I take this and I end up pregnant, like I could end up hurting the baby. So I just won't take that. And or drinking or anything like that. Like I just was so black and white. And every decision that I made for years and years was the sole purpose to get pregnant again. And that wasn't
Oh,
happening.
that's
And
exhausting and consuming.
oh my gosh, it's so
I'm
exhausting.
exhausting listening to it. Yeah, like, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, and I would just see naturopaths and like everyone I talked to, it was like, okay, like how, like this is happening in my body. Could it be like, is there a correlation as to why I'm not getting pregnant? And I was just, when I look back on this, I feel like I was just this chaotic woman in like chasing answers to try and control an outcome rather than pursuing not answers, but pursuing truth and just finding freedom in my faith. And I couldn't at the same time. Like I understand, like I had to go through all that chaos in my life. I had to get to where I am now. I remember it had been 7 years since the miscarriage, and I saw the same counselor, and I went into that conversation, and I was with the sole purpose of how long do I wait before I try and control this again? And like looking back, I'm like, I never stopped trying to control it up to then. So why did I think that I had to start all over again to try and control it? Like I never stopped controlling. And she was all I remember her saying to me, I remember nothing else. We talked for 2 hours. I remember nothing else of this whole conversation other than her saying that there is beauty in the waiting. And my story of waiting is it can be really beautiful. And in my mind, I was like, oh my gosh, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Like,
Yeah.
and I was like, I don't resonate with that at all. I like, how is this beautiful? Like waiting forever and ever for this, like for what I so deeply want to never happen. Um, and I just remember being so frustrated with that and walking away and being like, wow, that might have been a waste of time. Like that didn't change
Right.
anything.
How much did I pay you?
too much money, that's for sure. Um, but now I look back at that and with like so much fondness because like the story is actually very beautiful. Um, the story of me becoming who I am and how I've been able to, and not just me, it's not me, it's like how God has led me to be me. And how at the end, like as I went on, as I continued to not get the things that I wanted and thought that I should have, God, I allowed God to lead me more and more and step into the woman I'm supposed to be, which meant letting go of a lot of the shame that I had, and the hurt. I still feel hurt. Like whenever I'm around somebody who announces that they're pregnant or they're just starting to show, like it gets me still. And I have a hard time being around those people and being excited for them in their pregnancies because then I'm like, well, why again? Like, why not me? Like, why didn't that happen for me? Instead of looking at it and being like, just because they're pregnant, it actually doesn't take away from me and my life and my journey. It's just different stories and both are good and okay. And who knows what their struggle is? Everybody has a struggle. I may not want theirs actually, if I knew what it was. Um, but still, it's sometimes hard because I deeply wanted that for myself. And yeah, but the journey that it's been over the years of of becoming me and finally getting to a place of letting go of the control, like totally surrendering and reminding myself that I've surrendered because I have to do that.
Yes, we do.
So, like, but just remembering, like, oh yeah, I said this is yours. I'm giving it back to you. I can do the things that I can control in this, but at this point, I just understand if I were to get pregnant again, because I haven't completely closed the door. Um, Even though my son is now 12, which to me is mind blowing. Um, but I just know, like, if all this time has passed and I never get pregnant again, okay, it's okay. There is so much purpose in the story that I have lived and the example that I can be. And and at the end of the day, I'm going to give glory to God. And if I do get pregnant again, like that is only by God's will, a complete miracle, and I'm going to give all glory to him. So either way, I'm actually in so much peace even with when I hurt sometimes and even when I'm dissatisfied with my body and the things that I didn't get, I can still be at peace knowing that I'm in his hands and he has control over everything and and it's going to be okay and it just doesn't matter anymore of of me not getting what I want. And I've just come to believe and recently heard again someone say, um, when I think about that moment when I was, questioning why my brother and my sister-in-law could get pregnant again, and I was like, why them and why not me? But now I look at it as like, well, actually, why not me? Like, why not me that goes through what I'm going through? I'm not so much more special than anybody else that I shouldn't be going through this. I am still loved and cared for by God. Like he loves me so much that he has given me this journey that I get to wrestle with because of what it has done and what it has led me to. And it's all to him. Like I'm nothing but grateful. And like he's done this for me. He's like given me the greatest gift that I could ever be given. And I never would have gotten this gift if I hadn't gone through that experience, if I hadn't suffered this complete heartache and hatred for myself, if I hadn't gone through that, like I wouldn't be here. And I just and I can look at that over my whole, my whole life story, all the heartache and the struggle and like going through a period of my life where I was suicidal and like wanted to die and like, but something just made me not. And I just believe God's been talking to me my whole life, but I needed something so intense that would actually crack the door open enough to let him in. And that's all he needed. and he's like consumed my life. And now all I want to do is live for him and follow in Jesus' example as best I can. I fail every single day. I suck at it. I'm still angry. I still lose my temper. I still sometimes am not the nicest person to people. But I always come back to who do I want to be and what example do I want to hold? And how can I share that with other people? How can I share his gift with other people? Like that to me is everything. And it's the whole purpose of going through like hard things. And I'm just so willing, really, I'm just willing to put myself out there over again and again and again to hope every month that, it could be different. The outcome could be different, but I'm not going to be devastated whenever it doesn't come to fruition the way that I thought it would.
It doesn't rock your firm foundation. It
Yeah.
doesn't change who you're rooted in and what you're rooted in. You said there, what did you say? You said that you're gifted or you're blessed with this. What did you say? The journey that you're going to have to keep wrestling with. That teared me up. Like, I'm not going to lie, because I was like, oh, like that. I get that. And not in the journey of infertility, but yeah, just the moments in life where you're like, why is this my journey? Why is this my battle? Like, why are we still fighting with this? Sometimes I think of that story in is it Jacob, where he wrestles with God until he gets that blessing. Like, sometimes I feel like I'm in this moment, like you said, that constant conversation with God, where it's like, okay, but why? Like, can you make it make sense, please? Like, I totally resonate with that. And then at the end of the day, there is nothing like the peace that exceeds all understanding. Paul said it in Philippians 4. There's nothing like it. There's nothing that replaces it. And it literally just requires that letting go, that giving it to him, and knowing that I can have joy and I can worship no matter what the situation is. And then I think that the fact that we can still hope, like for you, every month, you can still save space for that hope that you may have another child and you may not. That shows so much healing, and I think so much maturity, because to hope is vulnerable, to dream is vulnerable. And boy, that's something I have also learned in the last couple of years, and learning to sit with emotions that are uncomfortable. And just sometimes I'm like, Jesus, I feel this. Can you just meet me here? Because I don't have the answers. Like, I'm sure you do, but you're not really screaming them out loud. Just meet me in this space, and then being okay in it. And it's hard. It's work, like you said. Like, we still screw up. We still get angry. I still cry often. I'm 45, so I feel like part of that is perimenopause. But like, we're allowed to be human and follow Jesus at the same time. And I think that's my favorite thing about Jesus. I found this new song. Um, it's new to me. I don't know if it's new, but it's called See You Right. It's written by MBL Worship. I'll share it in the comments. But he based it on the story in Luke 7 of the woman. Oh, here we go. The woman who comes in and sobs at his feet. Sorry. uh that and she pours all her perfume out and she just sobs, and they just call her an immoral woman, and she just doesn't care. And then in that song, in the bridge of the song, he says it might get a little messy tonight. He says, I might dance or I might cry. It just, like, I just keep having it on repeat. It's just going through my head lately. And I think that's the beauty. That's the beauty in letting go of control and putting it all at Jesus's feet and trusting him and being okay with his outcome and his plans, no matter what that looks like. This is an emotionally charged conversation. Um, okay. So what do you have to say? to all the women out there that are currently experiencing what you are in the middle of it, are on the other side, but still dealing with the anger, the frustration. What would you say? What would you tell them?
That's a great question. Because I remember a lot of people didn't know what to say to me when I was going through things. And I still, like, if I were in that situation again, I still don't know what I would want people to say to me. And so it's hard, even like when you go through your own experience, it's hard to just say to somebody else, like, like I get it. Like I feel your pain because I've been there.
It's okay to
And
have, it's okay.
yeah. And at the same time, and I really hope this comes across the right way, because it people can take it to mean like to be cruel. But I don't want to take away, and I don't want anyone to take away from somebody's valley journey.
Mm-hmm.
I like I just I think because of my own experience, I understand how important they are, and the purpose behind them is actually to bring you to your knees. And I had those moments multiple times, because God wants you to be closer to him. He wants you to lean on him, and he wants you to go to him. And even if you're going through really hard things, he still wants he still wants you to go to him. He doesn't want you to retreat from him and rely on yourself. Um, and I know that hard times and like infertility is especially, I feel like it's especially unique because you feel as a woman like you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
It just hurts you in your identity in a very deep way. I just I don't hate yourself. Like that's the only thing that I can think of, because I think the struggle of what you're going to learn about yourself and about God and how you can become closer to him, I think that's so important. But if there's anything that you could avoid or do less of, is that hating yourself and punishing yourself for what didn't come to be. I wish that was the only thing that was different. I wish I didn't go through that whole period of self-loathing, because it just hurt me in so many ways. And it can continue to hurt you physically, mentally, when you just are beating yourself up so much. So give yourself room for grace, and know that there is something divine in this process. And it may not be the story that you want for your life. It may not be, you know, the outcome that you deeply desire. But it's okay. It's okay to not get what you want, actually.
Well, that was so good. That's my favorite line. We got to tell ourselves that over and over. It's okay, Shelley, when things don't work out exactly as you had planned.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I love that. Are you comfortable to pray? Pray it out and pray for everyone?
Oh, gosh.
You got this.
Thank you, God, for incredible opportunities like this, for putting people in our lives who can touch us deeply in a way that we never could have imagined. I believe these moments, these experiences are by your design. And it is such a gift that you give to us. I just pray for everyone who is listening, who is watching, who is struggling in their life. I pray that whatever it is, whatever their story, when they get to the end of themselves, they find you.
Mm.
I pray that they come to you on their knees, surrendering, giving up control, and just being more dependent on you to provide for them. I know that what I want in life is not always what you want for my life. And I know that is true for other women as well. I pray that we all just learn to trust that what you want for our lives is actually better than what we want for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I pray that we just lean into that and remember that you are so good. You can redeem any hard thing, horrible thing that happens in our lives. They can be redeemed and used all for your glory. Can I
Amen.
say amen?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. That makes a few things when you were talking earlier, just like little verses. There will be joy in the morning and beauty for ashes, and he has every tear in a bottle, and you will see your baby again.
Mm-hmm.
Not in this life, but in the next.
Yeah.
She's up there. She's ready. He is. But yeah, well, I mean, thank you so much for being vulnerable and sharing that story because I know it's never easy to show up and just let it all out, but I know I really appreciate it and I know somebody else out there will. And thank you for just being real about it. And sometimes we just got to let go and that's it. And God meets us where we're at always. And he picks up the pieces, no matter how many pieces we shatter ourselves into sometimes. He just picks them all up and he creates something beautiful. What did your friend say? Beauty in the waiting. There's always
Yes.
beauty. There's beauty in the waiting. And sometimes it feels like we're always waiting. I can also,
Yeah.
I can also really appreciate that. So there is beauty in the waiting. We will end on that. Guys, thank you so much for being here. We will see you next time at a Joyfully Made podcast.